Hey guys, it's Matt. Welcome back to A Voice in the Night, which confuses the heck out of people in New York City because the video loads just after noon their time. The synchronicities and coincidences and little strange reality anomalies are kind of off the charts for me recently, probably for many of you too. I'll tell you about them. I'm going to tell you, I think I'm going to name this video in some way after My Dinner with Tondre. The only thing I know about that movie, besides just two guys talking for like 4 hours, is the famous conspiracy scene. And another synchronicity popped up as I was refreshing, because I was going to talk about that. I was refreshing what was said in the conspiracy scene. And it starts off from the opening sentences. One guy says, well, I think we're completely bored, like children in their bathtubs playing with their rubber duckies. He didn't say throwing them, but I went, oh, that's how the conspiracy scene starts? Matt, you obviously based your whole throw your rubber ducky thing off that from My Dinner with... I had no idea that was even said in My Dinner with Tondre. I was told about the conspiracy scene years ago. Overall, I've seen it maybe twice. I never watched the movie. So it's just strange that I needed to refresh what that scene was all about 5 minutes ago. And they start off with, we're just bored children in bathtubs playing with our rubber duckies. I saw my old friend from high school, Tony. You've heard about him a few times. Matt, we know him like a brother. Saw him Thursday night at, guess what? Another brew pub has popped up. Like the world needs another brew pub. It's ridiculous. It's almost like becoming a reality breakdown. The Ship Inn down here was a restaurant, a fine dining restaurant for, I don't know, as long as I've been alive. It's been there, who knows how long, 50, 60 years, closed down. It's becoming a brew pub. I mean, does the world need... This area has more brew pubs than fire hydrants. I'm going to talk about several different things here, but the first thing I'm going to talk about is the strangest conversation I ever had in my entire life Thursday night. Matt, that was just 2 days ago. I know. 2 days ago, met Tony out, my old friend, as you know, met him out at Bill and Bob's Brew Pub or whatever in Devon. I don't know, it used to be, it's returned over so many times. It used to be Gators and this place called Steak and Ale. And this other, it was Mackenzie's Brew Pub. And now it's a different brew pub. And, let me just get right into it, because I will move past this, but this will take at least 10 minutes. The strangest conversation I ever had. And I called Greg and I said, Greg, does this make sense the way I was presenting my argument? And am I losing my mind? And he's like, no, any first grader should be able to see this. And no, I'm not trying to wake him up, but it is one person that I can engage with that wants to engage with me on these topics, because he's so smart, he's so confident in his positions, he's so confident in his knowledge base and the way he can deliver his positions. He has no problem getting into it with me. It usually happens. It gets heated, but it doesn't get that bad. And then it kind of ends up that Matt, it always falls back to, I'm worried about you. Like I'm completely insane. That it's the only way some of the people around us can reconcile our viewpoints. First, something kind of funny. I got there first. I figured I go out once every few years. I might as well go 15 or 20 minutes early, have an extra beer. So he comes later and he says, Matt, it was Thursday night. It was pretty crowded for a Thursday night. Again, if anybody knows the area, it's just across the way from the Gateway Shopping Center. And pretty early on, he says, what's with this place? Did you have to kind of weave through 20 to 25 women between 25 and 35, all pretty attractive, all in groups? It's mostly women here, when most bars that we've been to for the last 25 years is about 95% a sausage festival. Like, what's with all these women? It's like Mitt Romney's binders full of women. I said, yeah, I noticed that. What was there a world war where all the men went away and now we have our choice? What is going on with this? Well, it didn't seem like a bachelorette party with some girl in a tutu flying around with a veil on in the way that the 20-somethings do it. This was an older group, but 25 to 35, I guess up to 40. That's real young to somebody like me. That's like jail bait to somebody like me. Can we even do that? 40? But anyway, but then they all get together for a group photo. We're like, yeah, this bar is not some anomaly that came out of the multiverse where there's actually more women than men. It's a goddamn bachelor party. Then we talked about one of the biggest misnomers of all time. That's not the right word, but I felt like it was appropriate right now. A misnomer, it's not the right word. It's like men that you're raised believing that, a bachelorette party is a great place to go pick up a girl. No, it's the worst time in the world to pick up a girl. They're there to support the bachelorette. They don't. And if somebody hooked up with a girl in a bachelorette party, that's a 1 in 10,000, my friend, or you're some sort of Casanova. Matt, you're 5 minutes in, and there's been no truth. There's been no breakdown of reality. I'm busy here, man. Get to it. This ain't for, I said before about the voice in the night, it ain't for you 1.25 bathroom boys. Get lost. Get. This ain't for you. I'm going to get into that sort of truth, and who knows where it will go. Okay, as usual, we talked about some movies. We talked about some people from high school. And then there's always that entree, that My Dinner with entree into the conspiracy, and it was the economy in this case. And I said, surely after CV, you now, Tony, see how fake the economy is. You can't have nobody flying for a year and a half, nobody on a cruise ship, nobody going to a Disney theme park, $1 trillion+ taken out of the economy, but the stock market races up on. And he's generally agreeing with how strange some of the anomalies were, but then we're getting into areas where we disagree, with led to other conspiracy. Like I said, you do see this has to be managed by one central group, the entire world, or there's no way the economy would hold up. This has to be managed by one supercomputer, and it's beyond the scope of what regular people are pushing buttons and pulling levers. It's basically AI run. And he's, no. I said, you believe that the European Central Bank actually makes policy decisions on their own, not completely in coordination with the Fed. And I'm putting it mildly, in coordination. I think it's two guys, oiling up a computer. That's what runs the entire system. He's like, no. The ECB, of course, they're independent. I'm like, oh, come on. Anyway, so we talked about the economy. There was some agreement there, but something came up where he introduced the other conspiracy inside the economic conversation. Something like, that's as simple as to see as the moon landing. And oh, no. This is the entree. Now, looking back, I'm saying, oh, no. At the time, I was like, you don't believe in that. It was my entree to get into. Look, I know he's not going to run away, and a lot of people in the truth community, they falsely believe. They'll say, Matt, deep down, a lot of people know what we know, or they sense it, but they don't want to know. Bullcrap, absolute bullcrap. They'll present it like they sense that all of the stuff that we know is right, but they don't want to break their worldview. No. The ship of fools we know doesn't work like that anymore. That's a factor, but it's a tiny factor where a lot of the truth community uses that to explain it away. I said, you don't believe in the moon landing at this point. What are we pushing? 60 years or something like that? He's like, are you kidding me? Of course the United States landed on the moon. Now, okay, that's going to be, again, a benign argument as well, because he's well aware that, millions and millions of people like us around the world don't believe in the moon landing. That's not exactly sending, the conversation down a slide down into the abyss. But then somehow he said something about, maybe he read about this, like, quote, many of people in our community, our take on satellites. And I don't have an opinion on satellites. There is something, who knows where they put it. I believe it's more than a hot air balloon, but we'll get into that some other time, all right? It doesn't matter for the purposes here. He says, well, you probably don't even believe in satellites. He probably read that somewhere a lot of the truthers don't believe in satellites. And then I wanted to shift off of that. I don't love that topic because I'm not confident in my own position about it. I said, well, okay, let's take the ultimate satellite, Voyager or Voyager 1 and 2. Let's start there. You don't really believe there's something over 1 billion miles away that's past the Mork from Oort cloud is still sending back signals. I think they say they're both still sent. He's like, well, of course. Of course I believe in Voyager. Now, then this conversation literally went to the bizarro world, almost like we were in separate reality bubbles. It was the weirdest thing of all time. I've got to pause this now. I don't even know how to begin explaining to you how weird this was. Now, for Voyager, I don't expect somebody to completely come around to our side and say, do you have an extra card so I can become a card-carrying conspiracy theorist too? But I expect a tiny little meet in the middle. Like just the way I presented before. Matt, I'm not going to believe in your horse shit, but it is, I'll give you this, Matt. It is a little strange that, these are so old at this point and they're so far and they're still spending back signals. I mean, it is, I agree, man, it is strange. I'm not going to jump right to conspiracy. That's a little bit of an olive branch or olive leaf or white flag or whatever. That's a little bit of meeting in the middle, but it's hardcore Ship of Fools dig in that, Matt, of course it's so simple. Anybody can understand why they're still sending back signals. It wasn't a stretch at all. It was as simple as like peeling an apple. And he's like, you must have, the impression I'm getting, and then it kind of came out later, is basically like, you must have some sort of mental disorder not to believe in something so simple that Voyager could be sending back signals. And it literally, this went on for 10 minutes, where it was literally like separate reality bubbles. Whatever I was saying was somehow being filtered, and he was hearing something different. If I was pinned at like on a scale of 10 and he was pinned at 1, neither of us were moving even a centimeter towards each other. It was absolutely bizarro. And I mean, it was almost like the stuff he was saying made no sense to me. I mean, no sense. And what I was saying, of course, wasn't making sense to him at all. And I said, and it was really, really strange. I don't get out much and interact with people in the Ship of Fools much. Maybe somebody's screaming at me right now, throwing rubber duckies like, Matt, that's the way they all are now. You jerk. Because you get out once every decade. That's the way they all are now. Okay, well, I'm just going to express it in my own way, with it being my first experience, where it literally was like two reality bubbles. I've been with normies or people in my family where they don't want to talk about it or they go away. Somebody might be throwing rubber duckies saying, Matt, when they engage with you, it is like they're speaking a different language. Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that till now. So I said, okay, I did something like when I make some of these presentations, I don't know where it's going to go. I said, let's just completely back up to the basics here and see if we can find any agreement, Tony, at the base level. And I broke it down to like what you would say to somebody that's like 4 years old or somebody in kindergarten. I said, okay, you see those bottles? See that Old Crow and that Johnny Walker Red up here, whatever? Yeah. Okay, if I had a BB gun here, I could shoot those bottles with a BB gun, right? You bought a BB gun and a bottle. Bought. I didn't say that to Tony. Okay, you know where I'm going with that. I said, yeah, he's like, they're right there. I said, what if that bottle... I was a little condescending, I guess. What if that bottle was all the way on the other side of New Jersey? Now, I know it would be hard to hit, but do you see if my BB gun wasn't exactly in the right position? It was just 1 millimeter to the left. If the bottle was in Ocean City, New Jersey, my BB would end up in Tom's River. Do you see how as distance goes on, that BB or that beam has to be perfect? And... He couldn't see this. He could not see this. He said, well, you believe in, how do you think the cars and everything have GPS, global positioning? You believe in that. And I wasn't going to go there. I said, of course, I had to find agreement because we were talking about Voyager. Okay, I had to find agreement, even if it was artificially manufactured. I said, of course, global positioning satellites. I understand how that works, Tony. And he's like, do you know how that works? And I was like, oh, yes, geosynchronous orbit. And there's one that they have it moving at 17,500 miles per hour. And Matt, I'm not doing a sidebar. This was for the sake of communicating with Tony. I was throwing a Hail Mary in the attempt to communicate with somebody on the Ship of Fools. Yes, then they have it positioned exactly over the damn Sears Tower, which is the Willis Tower, which is the whatever in Chicago, so it doesn't move. And that's how GPS works. It's like, well, yeah, well, that explains Voyager. I'm like, how does that explain Voyager? What does one have to do with the other? So I said, well, let's back up again. I'm not going to go on forever on this, guys. Just give me maybe 3 or 4 more minutes. Said a pen laser. Look, theoretically, a pen laser at night. Let's picture this, Tony. Now, I could hit that wall right in front of me with a pen laser, right? I said, what if that wall was like in California? See how if my pen laser was just kind of pointed in the wrong direction by just a fraction of a millimeter, that I was trying to hit that wall in San Francisco, Gavin Newsom lined up there in a police lineup, but then I'm off by not even a millimeter, but then my pen laser's hitting someplace down by Tijuana, and that's just to California. Times that by billions and billions, or however far this V'ger thing is. So I said, okay. He's like, well, yeah, I understand the concept of a pen laser. Okay, good. So this thing has a dish of some kind, and it's beaming this pen laser from its perspective coming back to Earth. This signal has to be pointed perfectly. Okay, if it's off even a fraction of a millimeter, it's not even going to it's going to miss Earth and be on the other side of Jupiter. Again, putting things in his terms. And he couldn't even. It was like that was not coming out of my reality bubble. He wasn't hearing that or something. He said, "Well, you know how he just kept coming back. He's not stupid. He's as smart as anybody you'll ever meet. You know how GPS works, Matt." I said, "Well, we just talked about this. Stay with my pen laser example." He's like, "Well, it's just the same as GPS. The satellite right there can send a beam, and that's pretty darn far away, and it can send a beam to your direct TV. Well, Voyager's just doing the Voyager." He said, he didn't say Voyager. Voyager's doing the same thing. I said, but you understand that the satellite that's just doing your direct TV or whatever, a weather satellite, it's like, and I even pushed up right next to him, my shoulder against his shoulder. Not that our relationship's like that. Not that there'd be anything wrong if it was. But just a fraction of a way, I got right next to him. I said, see, that satellite there that you just talked about is as close as this to Earth. But Voyager is like in Beijing. See how it's not a good analogy you're giving, because he's like, no, it's the same. Anyway, this could go on. I'm not going to go any further. It was just he's doing circular reasoning. He's not. It's literally like what I was saying was not literally getting out of my reality bubble. It was the weirdest thing. And eventually, after 15 minutes, I said, you haven't moved an inch. I haven't moved an inch. We have to just stop this. This is absolutely bizarro. And let's just shut this whole conversation down. And we did. So one last little 45 seconds or less to wrap this up. When I talked to Greg, I said, Greg, the conversation with Tony was so strange. I just have to, am I missing something? The way they understand it, Greg, Voyager would have to be beaming a signal like a laser pen from over 1 billion miles away with two different bodies and objects from their perspective moving at tens of thousands of miles an hour in different directions, and it would have to beam it exactly right. And Greg's like, yeah, that's how they say it works. I said he couldn't comprehend how impossible that would be from over 1 billion miles. Greg's like, well, that's the way people are. Matt, when you said separate reality bubbles, you're using that as an analogy of some kind. You don't truly believe that. I do believe it is possible at this point. I really do. There's almost no other way to explain some of the strange interactions we've had. We all admit there's things going on here we can't possibly understand or fathom, even in the reality buttons and levers that these creeps pull. I've started talking about separate reality bubbles, or reality being very, very individually subjective. 3 or 4 years ago, I started talking about it. And again, I'm not going to put all my chips there, but I'll put more chips there on it today as a possibility than I have years ago. And as time goes on, I keep putting more and more chips on it. So, well, Matt, how would that work? I mean, we have no idea. How could you possibly be talking to someone and it's perfectly clear to you, or if Greg was sitting next to you, but somehow there's a filter that whatever is getting to his reality bubble is just different, or what he wants to hear? Who knows how? I believe it's possible at this point. I don't know if I'll go probable. There could be other means and mechanisms and things back to even basic types of things we've talked about mind control, why the ship of fools and the people on it act the way they do. We've talked about the whole world being a fluid reality, similar to Mandela effects. Things change. The people on the ship of fools reset to it. I can understand, because of that theory, how fluid reality, things change. The Not Ilk wants certain people to believe certain things, and everybody just resets to it as the ship of fools sails. But that does not explain how he could not understand my simple pen laser example. One other thing I forgot about that really is critical, if what I said a few minutes ago has any basis, is when we weren't getting anywhere very on, I said pretty clearly, I didn't use the word cake in a lake fake, but I said several times early on, I don't believe in it. Okay, if I say things like that, then it's pretty obvious, or he should know where I'm coming from. And it was like he didn't know where I was coming from, because he would say things like, well, you tell me then how it gets the signal back, or where's the signal going? Like, you're not understanding the words that are coming out of my mouth. I don't believe it's not there. And then like a minute or two later, something like, well, then explain how the signal does this. And then I came out and just used the cake in a lake fake word. It's like, what? You believe it's cake in a lake fake? You what? I said, well, is that news to you? What do you think I've been saying for the last 10 minutes? Why am I even arguing with you if I have a belief in it? It was insane. Anyway, let's move on. All right, let's talk about impossible coincidences and synchronicities and some of the things that have been happening a lot to all of us. I talked about the rubber ducky thing in My Dinner with Andre, but what happened yesterday, I mean, maybe it wasn't 1 in a million maybe, but it was pretty amazing. I'll tell you about that in a second. Could get kind of long, this whole video, but first, the most important part is what I believe these synchronicities to be. First off, across the board, I believe them to be incredibly positive, good news. I've talked about this a few times in the past, but never quite in this way. There was an episode of Star Trek. It was the season finale, I remember where I was watching. I think I was still at Penn State in 1992 with Captain Picard, where they were like in a Western town, and or Data got trapped in a Western town. But from the perspective of Captain Picard, for example, it was a whole society or culture that was right next to them, but it was like out of phase. I think they talked about it. You had to adjust the phase of reality itself to merge with that reality. And somehow Data got sucked in. He was out of phase. So it was kind of like if you adjusted all their tricorders, he was there, but it was blurry. And I don't know eventually what they did to be able to bridge the realities together. But as we continue to do what we've been doing, we are becoming out of phase with this reality, with the frequency of this reality, or the like the Schumann resonance, whatever that is, of this reality. We're becoming out of phase with it, or simply, if you will, incompatible with it. And it gets back to the T-shirt, jump for joy if you're incompatible with what's out your window, because who would want to be? So if I'm literally, I'm not just talking about like a way of putting something. I'm saying almost literally there's some metaphysics going on here. We're ready to leave, ready to get out, or ready to win, or whatever you want to say, where we're incompatible, where my reality bubble can't communicate with Tony's. I believe this is all possible. In the Star Trek, again, Data in that community, that whole reality was right there and two inches away, but it was millions and billions of miles because they couldn't bridge the phase. It was out of phase with where Riker and Picard was. We're slowly taking ourselves, I don't know any other way to put it, out of phase. It doesn't mean I don't think one day I'm going to walk around the corner and my family can't even see me. What happened to Matt? He just disappeared. I don't think we're going to disappear or rise up into a glowing ball and fly away or something. No, but it's just a way of putting it. But there's a literal sense to that as well. Like even time. Time to us is just bizarro anymore. How fast, and I'm taking into account and discounting that I'm getting older. And Matt, don't you know time gets quicker as you get older? Time is completely bizarro to me and many of us. And it's just, well, again, as we become incompatible with the reality across the board, everything here that's a pillar of this reality will become at odds with us, or foreign to us, or strange. It's all, and this is all great news, of course, because we are moving away. It's the ship of fools. The farther and farther it gets down the river, the more we will be incompatible with everything, even something like time. But this section's supposed to be about synchronicities or impossible coincidences or things that we all interpret as being very positive. And I believe that also goes hand in hand in some way that we'll likely never understand. That as you become more incompatible with this reality, the synchronicities actually start coming more and more. How that works, who knows? How could that possibly be like that, Matt? Because you're separating from a reality, but then the reality is kind of giving you a reward. I didn't design the reality. I'm just saying I believe they go hand in hand. So as we become more incompatible, Tony can't understand what I'm saying, or my intentions don't get out. Maybe it does get out of my reality bubble, doesn't get into his reality bubble. Time starts to break down. All the pillars of this reality start to break down. But then we're getting these synchronicities, which is like a wonderful thing and like a reward. I don't know it's not the right word, but I don't know. I need to describe it at least in this way for now until I can describe it better in the future. Maybe that's how the damn game board was set up. Who knows? But I believe it absolutely goes hand in hand. So I've gone back and forth with a lot of people over the years who have given me their opinion, but then they'll ask me, Matt, does your friend Tony and my brother-in-law, do they have the same synchronicities? And my default was always to say, yeah, they probably do. They just don't notice. They don't apply any significance to it. They just brush it off and they blow it off. I don't know at this point. They probably don't. I'm really starting to believe strongly that these synchronicities, it's a dumb way of putting it. Call it a reward. I don't know how to talk about it right now, but it's very simple. As you move away from the reality, cut all the Jacob Marley chains, separate yourself, move away, not fall for the tricks, not give it any energy, attention. All the other stuff what we talked about will happen, but the synchronicities will start to come as well. So in that regard, no, they don't come to Tony or my brother-in-law if I had one, because they're smack in the middle of the ship of fools. This is my belief now, and it has been for a little while. It seems to get more reinforced over time. Okay, so what was the synchronicity that happened to me yesterday? It were three things that was just one right after the other, back to back to back, all on the multiverse, but all coming in from completely different places and directions. So I've mentioned before, when I'm eating a Wawa hoagie, we call them hoagies here, I guess, from New York through, I guess, probably Boston through Baltimore. We call them hoagies. I don't think the rest of the United States calls them hoagies. That's why these Subway sandwich places exist. And is there anybody more obnoxious than the Charles Barkley and his endless Subway get fresh refreshers? Go away, Charles Barkley. Just go away. So now if I just load up YouTube without going specifically into subscriptions, all the mindless stuff that I've been paying attention to for the past few months about how the movie reviewers don't understand that Amazon actually has the ability to make good shows and the Rings of Power is made bad on purpose. And so it just loads them because it knows I've been spending a lot of time on this, and I continue to watch some of these reviews because as I crunch my hoagie, I like the mindless stuff. So one of these movie reviewers talking about how this concept of the multiverse with, was it Spider-Man, No Way Home, where the three Spider-Men from different dimensions, the Tobey Maguire and the other two actors all got together in the same movie. And this movie reviewer is saying this is just being played out too much because they don't know what else to do. And this multiverse keeps coming and coming and coming. And you just can't get one more drop out of the washcloth. Okay. It's a decent review and video, mindless stuff. And I finished my hoagie. Okay. Now let's get back to work. Click on a email. I mean, this is just seconds later. And someone had sent me, was it Juan? I'm sorry, I forgot. Was it Juan who sent me the Nike commercial about the multiverse? About, I don't know anything about European football, what we call soccer, where this player is better than this player, but they played in two different eras. So how would you know? Well, these scientists in this Nike commercial, basically just a ripoff of CERN, create the multiverse where one soccer player in a different era can play against the other. So this is just seconds after finishing the video about the multiverse. Okay, watch the Nike. It is a play on CERN, and that's probably why it was sent to me. All right, again, back to work. Here comes right back to back. Here's an email from Elaine, who has a very small channel. And guess what her video's about? Quantum physics, and a big part of it, the multiverse. Okay, I understand that's not the most incredible thing in the world, and maybe it's a minute you can't get back, but it was pretty amazing just the way it went down, which I'm not describing properly. Matt, that ain't shit. Okay, I didn't describe it properly. It was pretty amazing because it came from three different directions, and this stuff just happens all the time to us. It's not horse shit. Speaking of horse shit, Greg calls me. I don't know what time it was. Was it 5 o'clock yesterday? 4:30? 5 o'clock? And he's like, I want to give you a tip. I know you're going to start to burn your wood stove. It's getting cold up there. I hear it's getting cold here in South Carolina. Here's a tip, that we do here in the South. He also told me tips about saving bacon grease and shit like that. I feel like my cousin Vinny, the first time he was introduced to grits, it's like, save your laundry lint, he told me. It's great to start fires with. Okay, laundry. I don't do that much laundry, but I know people like Pam do a lot of laundry. Maybe I can ask them to. Matt, if you're asking your friends to save up their laundry lint, they're really going to think you're having problems. Anyway, so the point is with the synchronicities, there's another one yesterday. I said, Greg, guess what I started to do 10 seconds before you called? I had just grabbed my gloves and the firewood carrier to start the first fire of the season. 10 seconds before he calls, and just the reason he called was, oh yeah, we had talked earlier too. I forgot to. I want to tell you about the save your dryer link to start fires. And I'm 10 seconds into starting the first fire. This shit happens all the time. Again, it's not coming out real well. Probably a few minutes you can't get back. Sorry. Separate note, was it Mashev? M-A-C-I-E-J? I think it's mostly a Polish name. I never can pronounce it correctly. I apologize. He emailed me, I guess he does a podcast or a show or something, where they told him to skip episode 33. You must, and he knows this, but I'm like, no, do not skip episode 33. They don't control these, they don't own these numbers. You've heard me say this before, of just 30 seconds or less. Matt, you're dropping threes like crazy. They don't own the damn numbers. We're not going to run from numbers. In fact, they're numbers. Why do you think they didn't pick 33? Because they liked it, like their favorite color. They know it's a power number associated with the gematria, how reality flows here. It's not their number. 666 isn't evil. It's how it's used. The 9 paired with the 11. Do not run from any. They don't own this shit. We have just the same right if these are power numbers. The entire reality, the underlaying of this reality, how it flows out, is the numbers and the gematria, and don't run from it. And it's look what I'm doing this right now, over 33 in some minutes. I just looked up. Here we go. Let me talk about what just happened there, because I think it's related to a lot of people saying, I see a certain number on my clock every day, or I see that it's 9 o'clock at night and 11 minutes past 9 at night, or I see these numbers on my clock. And I think what happens there is very similar to what just happened to me. I think the subconscious mind, or what's going on behind your conscious brain, is so powerful. We just don't give it the credit it deserves. We have conscious focus, like I do now, trying to make this presentation. But without a doubt, this is the absolute dumbest part of us. I think we help condition the subconscious or unconscious mind, and it conditions the conscious mind back, and there's give and take. But with all the focus we've had with our conscious minds in doing this reality research or truth research over 5, 10, or 15 years, certain numbers keep being presented in our research, right? The 9 paired with the 11 on a clock, 11 on the clock, whatever it may be. So I see the same time every time. And I think it just happened to me. This is how I explain it. Not that it's some amazing. This may be, bad news to some people. I don't think it is some amazing synchronicity where your higher self is giving you messages. In this case, I don't. Where you're watching TV and underneath, this happens to me all the time. Underneath is the Comcast cable box, and I happened to look down at the time, and I don't really look down at the time very much. The Comcast cable box displays the time, and it's 9 p.m. 11, okay, p.m. And what's happening is, to me, your subconscious or unconscious through the eyes is taking in basically everything, and it's maybe processing in a way your conscious brain can't understand, processing everything. And it sees, even without you seeing it, you're watching television, it sees. It's in your field of view, right? I mean, maybe it's not in your eyes, your rods, or your cones. It's not directly where you're looking, but it's just below. I think your subconscious sees it and then brings your conscious mind to its attention, and you decide to look down. Like, I'm always looking when it's 9 p.m. and 11 after. See, I think this probably just happened to me. I am kind of looking off to the side as the damn iMovie. It's not iMovie. This is the damn GarageBand that I have to load 2 or 3 times before the sound card works properly in the new Mac. It's like, it's all jarbled and crap, and I have to stop it, reload, and then the sound card will load properly. Of course, the old Mac's sitting over there. I'm looking at it right now. He's like, I'm 13 or 12 or 13 or 14 years old, and everything's worked perfectly from day one. All this new stuff is horse shit. It is. So I think I'm looking off to the side because it's creating its patterns and everything. And I off to the left side, though, I can see the numbers moving at the time of the video. And I probably saw we were approaching the 33 minutes. And then I remembered Masheff's comment about drop episode 33. And then the genius conscious mind, I just thought I got that idea myself, all laid out and given to me by the subconscious, was I'm going to have the idea to talk about, or to remember to talk about what Masheff said about drop episode 33. When I knew, without even being conscious of it, I was about to go into minute 33. That's what I believe happens, guys. Matt, your whole presentation for the last 10 minutes on and off has been about synchronicities, and you just took one away from us. You used your friend Tony type rational explanation to explain why we see the numbers when we thought it was a wonderful, beautiful synchronicity where our higher self was communicating with us, and you just took it away from us. What kind of sabotage you out to do here, you son of a beach? Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you what I believe. I believe that one is explainable. That doesn't take all the incredible synchronicities away from us and all the incredible things that happen that I believe are symptoms of separating from the reality. I'm sorry. If all the synchronicities you're getting are seeing the same damn time on a clock and you're not getting them in other places, then you have more Jacob Marley chains to cut. You have to separate yourself more. You have to take farther steps away from the matrix, and they'll come, in my opinion. If you build it, if you separate yourself from that shit, this matrix, they will come. I'm sorry if I ruined your little special clock moments you have every night, you son of a beach. Pause for a few minutes. Now I'm back, and I was thinking about my use, or I pulled out the word misnomer, which I know I did incorrectly. And usually when I just pull a word out that I never use, usually I get it right somehow. But in this case it was wrong. I knew it was wrong, but I'm like, what misnomer? I had to look it up, and I'm like, of course, misnamed, misnomer, a wrong or inaccurate name or designation. So let's do an exercise here. We should do this every time. You'll never forget misnomer. In fact, from this example, you'll incorporate it immediately into your vocabulary. Misnomer. Elon Musk, an inventor.
Misnomer.
Elon Musk, a genius entrepreneur. Misnomer. Put that on your Sesame Street.
Misnomer.
Back to My Dinner with Andre. My favorite part of the conspiracy part of their dinner, 3 to 4 minutes, is when the one guy says to the other guy, New York, I believe, is the new model of the new concentration camp. He talks about everybody's saying, I want to leave or I have to get out, but then they never do. And there are no real walls or guards because the people that live there are so brainwashed, they become their own prison guards. Look, I'm not picking on New Yorkers. This is the model, of course, they lay down on the entire West. It's very similar what he's saying in this Truman Show segment, in this My Dinner with Andre segment to what I've said about the Truman Show in the past. The Truman Show that we have here today, which I talked about in the opening few segments of the book, is incredibly superior to the Truman Show that's laid down in the movie. Of course, anything laid down in the movie where you have one person asleep and everybody's an actor, that will fail. It'll fail very, very quickly. It wouldn't have taken till Truman was 38 years old to fail. What they've done with us here is everybody is a Truman. Everybody believes in everything. Therefore, they all reinforce it on each other, and it's similar to what this guy's saying about the people that live there are actually the guards, and they build their own prison cells. And again, it's nothing to do with New York City. The entire West is like this. Cities in the Far East some cities are still indoors, 95 to 100% in masks. Oh, they're far worse, way worse than New York City and San Francisco and some of the big cities here. I found an article from CBS News that the headline was, Billy Joel marks his 80th consecutive concert in New York City's Madison Square Garden. Then I went on to research that he's pushing 130 shows. I found something where he hit his 125th, but that was months ago, and they say he plays one a month since like 2012 or 2013 or 2014 or something like that. So 80th consecutive, I don't even know what that means. It means he hasn't played anywhere else, but then he's doing these shows once a month. You want to talk about stalled century. Here's how many things a week do we get that adds to the theme of stalled century? Same old, hang on forever, nothing new. There's literally an entire YouTube channel could be about stalled century until at some point, I don't think they can push that goalpost back or that finish line back forever. The only thing, and I'm not concerned for myself. I mean, I told you, fear of death is down 95% as to what it was when I was terrified of it in my 20s. But in general, the only thing that concerns me about the actions of these creeps, ultimately, it's all worry about yourself, and so be it, whatever happens. But the only thing from time to time that does concern me is what are they stalling this all out for? And maybe it's as simple, if anybody's throwing a rubber ducky, saying they need to do it for themselves, Matt, or maybe somebody like Levette would say their time is up. It's nothing to do with you. They need to stall this out for their own last attempt at their own magic to keep their position under, because now the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction is switched. I don't know anything about that. I don't care to know anything about that. But yeah, hopefully there's some sort of weird reason why they're doing all this weird shit to stall it out. And it is a little disconcerting at times. But again, by my heel, who cares? Who cares? Best case would be they're doing it for their own selves because it's the only thing they got left, hopefully, but whatever. The point is, this relates back to the Billy Joel thing, relates back to what was said in the My Dinner with Andre, where the prisoners create their own concentration camps and they are the guards. And with New York especially, if you're on the East Coast, you've felt it, but if you've lived there, New York creates a feel for its own people. And most people are so proud of it, and so it's almost like a superiority complex to a degree. But I'm not describing this properly. Let's just jump right to there's other times where how does Billy Joel satisfy this, Matt? And it's more than New York State of Mind, but really is about. It's a great song, by the way, and Billy Joel in New York State of Mind. In my opinion, New York State of Mind. Again, he's done 80 consecutive concerts at Madison Square Garden. The New Yorkers who's going in there, to me, is probably 90% New Yorkers to reinforce their love for New York. Like said with My Dinner with Andre, that they don't realize the prisoners are the guards, and they're building their. What did it say in My Dinner with Andre? They're building their own concentration camp. I would literally estimate But by the way, let me back up. In the beginning of this 3-minute or 4-minute conspiracy segment with My Dinner with Andre, he says something like, people are always talking about getting out and they never do. We talk about getting out of New York, but we never do. And I would estimate that the song I'm in a New York State of Mind probably kept about 500,000 people over the last 30 years from leaving New York. And there's other ways and other forms of media where this New York feel is created. Ghostbusters. I mean, it is just that and how many movies are like that? And New York creates this mystique that people buy into, and it becomes like a superiority complex. And I don't know if they use New York to learn then how to apply this to the rest of the West, this isn't coming out real well. It's hard to talk about, but it's not just how wonderful Uptown Girl is. There's a reason related to what we're talking about here or with My Dinner with Andre, why Billy Joel just keeps coming back and playing it, related to the not milk what it wants, but also the people want to believe in this New York mystique. I don't know. I'm not getting it outright, but there's something to it. It's not because somebody throwing rubber duckies. Well, Matt, Christy Brinkley took a lot of money, and he's still trying to pay that back. Oh, sure. Yeah, he's not making... He probably 3 concerts at Madison Square Garden and a couple Billy Joel T-shirts. He probably paid her bill. You think the famous wives that took all the money, ever get together and just laugh their asses off? Forget Housewives of Atlanta and some of those really trashy housewives shows. I want to see, I'd watch the damn show. I want to see Christy Brinkley into the room with, is it Elon, Tiger Woods' wife, who chased him out the garage with the golf clubs, bashed the back of the thing, and then he hit the tree and ended up in jail. Paul McCartney's second or third wife that took his $150 million. I'm sorry, Mike, Billy, whatever he is. I want to see all those housewives together and all the money they took. I'd watch that sure shit. Just another minute or two on this Billy Joel concerts, or 80 consecutive, or pushing 130 since the year 90, whatever it said. It's ridiculous because who's going. It's the same people going back. I guarantee it's 85 to 90% the same New Yorkers going back. Not every month, but they'll go twice a year. New York's a big place. I don't think it's many people coming up on that damn Amtrak train from Baltimore or Philadelphia to see the Billy Joel. It's the New Yorkers who want that whole New York feel and mystique reinforced. And what do? They get in their seats and they've seen it now 8 or 9 times before. Like, you think he's going to play? He always holds one back. Is he going to play Uptown Girl tonight? What's he say? Brenda and Eddie were the popular steadies and the King and the Queen and the Prom. And what's a bottle of whites? Bottle of red, bottle of whites. What the hell is that all about? I need to look that up. Has anybody ever been to explain to me why he says twice bottle whites? What the hell? He doesn't even know how to talk, Billy Joel, that little cretin. And one of the most fascinating things to me, and is a reality reveal in some way, and Billy Joel goes right along with this, but it's also Stevie Wonder and Elton John. Oh, sorry, sir. Sir Elton, whatever. Sorry. Is he listening? How they never can create any new music. It doesn't. Even Elton John goes back on tour. It's part of stalled century. It's part of the stalled century magic. It's very simple. Now, if I was talking out my reality bubble, Tony would not be able to understand this simple, but I guarantee every one of you can understand this. There's only 2 possibilities. We're told they're genius songwriters. Right? Maybe Elton isn't, and he's just a good singer and he can play piano, and somebody wrote the songs that make the whole world sing. I believe Billy Joel is. Some of these guys are great songwriters. I don't know about Stevie Wonder, but we're told across the board they're genius songwriters. Of course, we know the group we're talking about here. Yet they still perform, most of them, but they don't ever have any new music that in any way rivals the old. It's always a stalled century presentation. Every once in a while, if Billy Joel says, I have something new, it's probably total horseshit. What I'm saying is, in a way, in my opinion, he's not allowed to put something out brand new that's really spectacular. It's just a feeling I get based on nothing, based on studying reality. There's only two possibilities. One, none of these performers can write their own music. They get a lot of help. So the not Nilk entities and the assistance that they get, Billy Joel's like, I want new music. I'm playing now 850 concerts in a row at Madison Square Garden. I want new music. And the writers are like, no, you ain't getting no new music. You go play Miss Saigon. We all go down together. You play that for the 4 millionth time and you shut up. You still pay him back, Christy Brinkley. And Elton John, okay. Then they get cut off from the Milli Vanilli Not Nilk writers. That's possible. Of course, he's a singer. He can perform. He can play piano and carry an audience. Now, if they are the music geniuses that they're told us they are, they would come up, one of them, just one, would come up with something new that was pretty darn good. Look at Billy Joel. I mean, the hits, Piano Man, the Brenda and Eddie, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, Still Rock and Roll to Me, Allentown, I Love You Just the Way You Are, do. I mean, they're endless. There's only two possibilities. He didn't write it. If he did write it, he's still a musical genius. He's not allowed to come up with anything spectacular. Elton John, Hold Me, what's a tiny dancer? What is that? Hold Me Close. That's, oh boy, I know that's that going into the realm of pause, Jimmy, pause, Savile, pause. Hold Me Closer, Tiny Dancer. I just thought, I don't know. You just ruined it for me, Matt. It just came to me. I don't know what it is. I don't know. People try to ruin Father Figure for me. One of my favorites, George Michael, Father Figure. Put your tiny hand in mine. I don't want to think about that shit. I like the Faith album. I don't want to not like it. But whatever. This is genius stuff, though. Hold Me, Benny and the Jets. I mean, it's just endless hits. Stevie Wonder. Go listen to Ribbon in the Sky or whatever it's called. It's just a wonderful, incredible song. Either they all were told, you guys aren't allowed to write any new stuff because it breaks our stalled century magic, or it wasn't written for them in the first place. Now, this is obvious to us. There's only two possibilities. Yet, I'm going to sit down with Tony, for example, and I'm going to say, Tony, there are only two possibilities. And of course, what's so fascinating, he would come up with with just a litany of downloaded excuses, not Nilk excuses. Matt, of course they could write good music still today, but they're not marketable and they're old and no music record is going to release it. Okay, well, why doesn't Billy Joel, doesn't he like writing music? Why doesn't he just present some new incredible songs to help people coming back to his concerts? And guys, he has a few new songs, but it's not, I haven't looked into it, but I guarantee it's not anywhere near the quality of those great songs we mentioned. And I'm saying at some point, one would buck the trend. Good is good. What did Kevin Costner say with Robert Duvall when their damn candy bar was melting before they're about to be shot up at high noon and with the free grazers? He says, it's melted, but good is good. If they were genius songwriters, it doesn't matter if the style of the song were a little out of date, it would be picked up and beloved by the fans. It doesn't happen rarely. It never happens. Yet, people like Tony would say, I'm just a conspiracy guy. And there's, Matt, plenty of normal between the bookends reasons why these guys don't produce new music in the same way they used to produce when they pulled out their tiny dancers. I received a very interesting email from Norway. I'll just say from SB. It seems like a simple name to pronounce the first. I can't do it. I cannot do it. My American tongue doesn't work that way, even when I tried to listen to how to do it online. So I'll just say, thank you, SB. Somehow you can direct me to a website where I can learn how to pronounce your name properly. I do apologize. It's Norwegian, and I'll ask Howdy McCoskey to comment on this as well. And I have to be very roundabout in how I present this because he said, Matt tried to comment and tell you guys this. Comment, wouldn't load. Wouldn't load. So I don't know, is this something that's going to be a problem? But okay. He, living in Norway, let's put it, he has observed the Northern Lights his entire life as his wife, as of everybody he knows. He's been there his entire life. And he said, Matt, you go to images now, and you know that color we've been talking about, the magenta agenda. He's like, it's all over image search for the Northern Lights. He's like, I will tell you flat out, no, there ain't no magenta in the Northern Lights. Now, I don't know if he hasn't, if he sees them now, he certainly expects to see the streak of red or magenta in them. But he's like, no, I'll tell you, Matt, that was not there. And I believe him. So we'll continue to research this topic. Now, if this is true, there are two possibilities the way I see it. Maybe there are a few more, but I only see two. One, that at some point, whatever the Aurora Borealis or the Northern Lights, I'm no expert on it, whatever electrons thrown out from the sun, I have no idea, get in the atmosphere, charged particles, I don't know. But the atmosphere, if the charged particles from the sun related to the magnetism of the Earth, again, I'm no expert on it. If the atmosphere is changed, or the composition of what we call here Earth, which includes the atmosphere, is changed, then the Aurora Borealis could produce something that looks different now. If he and others go back and find images, let's say in their old book in their attic, that shows the red or magenta in an old book or in an old reference source, that, look, here's a book from 1975, you see this touch of red, then that is a Mandela effect regarding the Northern Lights. According to, we don't have a huge sample size here, according to what he's saying. We'll need to confirm this with others. So it could be a Mandela effect, where then if he goes to his neighbor and says, has the Northern Lights, do you remember as a kid, there's always that touch of red or magenta, and the neighbor would say, well, yeah, of course, it's always been a little red at times. If the neighbor remembers it like that from his perspective, then it would be a Mandela effect. Just like the potential that exists with tails of chemicals, or chemical tails in the sky from Snoopy's Red Baron. To me, very clear. I've said this before, looked up at the sky all the time, spent 5 summers in a row at this Kingswood Apartments pool. This gigantic apartment complex in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, is called Kingswood Apartments, and all the little it was a gigantic concentration camp for single mothers. Every single mother that had ever been put out ended up in the Kingswood Apartments, which for a while was great for me, because it was me and my mom, and it was other kids. It was tons of kids. The whole bus stop got off at my bus stop. There was a lot to do. Anyway, we went to this damn pool, not very much different from the way it's expressed in The Sandlot. Or was it called The Sandlot, where they all go to the pool that one day, and the guy he gets rescued by the lifeguard just to kiss her. It's a good scene. There's some good scenes in that Sandlot. But we go to the pool and we look up and we look at the shapes of the clouds, and these things did not exist. Did not exist the way these long trails do today. And same with going to the beach in Ocean City, New Jersey. Did not exist, the long 100-mile streaks. I go to my neighbor, completely on the ship of fools, one of the neighbors around here, and he's like, they've been there. Of course, the huge streaks, some days you get that. They've been there since I was a kid, I'm sure of it. I believe him at this point. Oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. No, I believe that the tails of chemicals work similar to the way the Aurora Borealis is being described here. Basically is like a Mandela effect. I believe a lot of reality works this way. Haven't put this to a gigantic sample size, but when he says no, they were there when I was a kid, I believe him. And that means it's really no different than a Mandela effect. Even things like tails of chemicals, even things like the Aurora Borealis. When to many of us, Australia's in the, quote, wrong place, that showed a lot of us that it ain't just movie lines and rapper dashes. And I know there's a lot of people firing their rubber duckies against the image of me on their big screen hanging just above their bathtub in this regard. Like, Matt, you're going too far. I know sometimes you say, well, you don't go far enough. You're going too far on this. See, because, you dummy, because of the tails pause, Brenda and Eddie, of the chemicals. And that changed the atmosphere, you dope. Of course it did with their what we all know from those dumb books of barium, strontium, aluminum, oh my, lions and tigers and groundhogs, oh my, barium, strontium, and aluminum, and whatever was put in the Wolverine. Adamantium is probably put through the Bill Gates fleet of jets. That changed the sky, Matt. So when the electric particles or whatever, the electrons that come from the sun, then that shows you the sky has been changed. Hey, that is possible. It's possible. But it's going to be pretty simple when somebody pulls out, when SB pulls out an old book or go to the library and book into the library room and find a damn book that shows the old pictures from the 70s with a bunch of red and magenta. Then it's a Mandela effect. But that's since all your neighbors in Norway are going to remember, sure, they've always been, from time to time, they've always been a touch of red. Then there's no way to prove it. It's only your own memory against, what you remember versus the new reality, which per the Mandela effect is the way it always has been. It's a retrocausality, something that appears new. As you research it, it goes back through time. And it's always been that way. Therefore, by definition, it never existed, only in your memory. To me, this is another sign, another very good sign of, just like we talked about 20 or 30 or 40 minutes ago, separating from the reality. The more this weird shit happens, the more it's just screaming at you with a bullhorn. You're separating from the reality. Congratulations. No more come on down to spin the damn wheel and bid on a showcase. You're separating from it. You're in the damn seat in the back of Price is Right. Somebody comes up to you, some usher, and says, congratulations. I don't want to go on the show. I'm just here to watch. I'm here for the day, Burbank, because my wife wanted to see it. No, congratulations. We're ushering you out of this bullshit game show. It's the opposite. You're not being picked as a contestant to bid on a showcase. You're getting the fuck out. I talked about the show, Netflix show that I'm continuing to watch. It's very interesting. Graham Hancock, I think his name is. It's called Ancient Apocalypse. And I think, am I going into the 4th episode still, I think? But the first 3 sites, never heard of it, never heard of it, never heard of it. Well, look, I'm no expert like Irwin and some of the people that used to participate in this channel that have actually gone and visited 20 or more of these sites. And every single one Irwin has gone to around the world, I asked him, is there one that could have possibly have been built from what they said was available at the time? He said, I've seen them on every continent. Not one could have in any way had a chance of being built with what we were told was available. The donkeys, the burros, the jackasses, and the mules. So, but that's for a separate issue. Michael emailed me. And look, I'm just throwing this out as a possibility. I'm not going to quite go this far, but it's related to what we were just talking about, whether there could be a Mandela effect associated with the tales of chemicals or the Northern Lights. It's like the entire show, Ancient Apocalypse or Graham Hancock on Netflix. It's all a giant Mandela effect. He's like, these didn't exist. These sites did not exist in our reality. Now, I'm not going to go there, but it's possible. I'll leave that on the table. I'm somewhat worldly and educated. And again, these sites, I'm not through even half the show yet, but there's a lot of these megalithic sites, not just the Graham Hancock show, where I never had heard of it. And I don't like when people do this regarding the Mandela effect. There's too many people doing this regarding the Mandela effect, where there's one Brady Bunch special that they didn't know about. I would know about that, so it must be a Mandela effect. I don't like that at all when the Mandela effect community does this. But I'm coming around to it a bit. It's almost like those that constantly cry wolf about that in the Mandela effect community are doing it almost to give the rest of us a bad name, because I'm starting to. A lot of movies are popping up. I've seen a few movies in my day, right? Obviously, I can reference a few movie lines, and these movies are popping up. One just popped up the other day. Brad Pitt in The Tree of Life. Well, think about what we do here. The Tree of Life. I don't know, 10 years old, 12 years old. Somebody was a TJ, I guess, said, have you ever seen this? What is this? Said, never even heard about it. How's this possible? Now, I'm not going to say again, it annoys me. A lot of the Mandela Effect community will be like, well, it didn't exist in reality because I just happened to didn't see the Brady Bunch special. But I'm coming around a bit that is a possibility. Because not just with movies, but what Michael's saying with these ancient sites, and it relates to the Aurora Borealis, what we've been talking about. It relates to the things in the sky. It's like, how many things have to pop up where we had no recollection that these things existed. And before I'm doing what I do now, I didn't exactly live in a cave as a hermit. I do now, but I'm still on the internet, and I do 4K walking tours and stuff around Venice, Italy, and I do pretend I'm vacationing with the beautiful girl that was in Hitman. I pretend I'm with her. It's okay to do that sort of fantasy if you don't leave the house. I treat her better than the Hitman treated her. I don't like the way the Hitman treated that poor girl, putting her in the trunk. There's a dead man in the trunk, she said in the movie Hitman. Bot, dong? I'm talking about the movie. It's called Hitman from 7 or 8 years ago. Bot! I wouldn't put her in the trunk. I'd put her in the... sorry. But, okay, if more and more stuff pops up where we have no recollection these things existed, like giant megalithic sites and shit, I will keep it on the table that it is a Mandela effect and literally didn't exist in my old reality. I'm not going to go there as quickly as some of these people do, but you know what I'm saying. If anybody's a little depressed in their life, here's some wonderful news. Just under 2 months before Megan comes out, M3GAN, the movie about the little girl that gets a playmate. It's a cybernetic doll AI organism of some kind, just less than 2 months before that movie comes out. I mean, what more do you need in life? But I found the original great email, another great email from Zane regarding, I kind of threw it out in a video. I said, if they want everybody to adopt that, which they certainly want everybody to adopt that, they want everybody to have cybernetic everything and eventually merge with it, why do they make it scary? Wouldn't making it scary in the movie that's going to come out called Megan, but M3GAN. By the way, you can't spell magenta without Megan. I think it was Steffers that pointed that out to me. And it also has the GAN, the Generative Adversarial Network. The GAN is what creates, or the driving engine behind, or what they say behind all the AI is GAN. So you have both of that in the name Megan, by design, of course. But Zane says, Matt, it makes sense why they would want to scare you, because it's just a temporary thing. It's to get your interest. So he says here, movies that expose the creep factor of new technologies, like Megan, and make it scary, do so as a way to normalize abnormal experiences, you may have with the technology. When we watch a movie, our brain doesn't know it's fake. The creeps, we've heard that before about how, your conscious mind does, but what's really seeping down to the subconscious or unconscious. Okay, the creeps know how to exploit that. Think of the rise of computers in popular movies. At first, they make us afraid of it. The Terminator. Then we laugh at it, Weird Science. Then we overcome it, The Matrix. Then it's oddly beautiful, a movie like Her, where he fell in love with his operating system. And finally, it becomes commonplace, the use of computers, and wonderful, like Star Trek. This way, when it finally rolls out in real life, we've already gone through the emotional roller coaster ride, and we allow the not milk to integrate it into our lives without a fight. This is popped to my mind, just inserting here, the 5 stages of grief. What is it? Anger, denial, acceptance, bargaining, whatever. But they're using that same process with the normalization of where they want to take society and culture, the normalization of certain really evil technologies. And if you have to go through this process of what Zane's here of, like the 5 steps of grief, it doesn't matter if they scare the shit out of you to start, because they have 4 more steps to make up for that. Okay. Without this way, when it finally rolls out in real life, we've already gone through the emotional roller coaster ride or the 5 steps of grief, and we allow then the not milk to integrate it into our lives without a fight. Why aren't more people resisting protesting? They already did. They won the war in a movie theater 2 decades ago. I'm sure Megan is just a way to take the newest generation along that journey so the not milk can ensure the younger generation is sufficiently numb to the horrors of the technological future. On that, Zane, thanks very much. I'm not going to be able to sleep for the rest of the week. The new Exorcist isn't Regan, it's Megan. is there a reason they're so similar? And I don't. The Megan movie is not. I mean, nothing is as bad or as creepy or scary as The Exorcist. This Megan movie gets creepy with this doll-like thing, and probably she gets violent in the movie trailer. The movie I'm expecting to see called Megan, but will they then do something? I mean, will Megan 2 be like The Exorcist, Megan and Regan? I don't know, but this is a good insight we have again from Zane. Thank you. Guys, thanks for listening. The video's over. I got to run. I've got 5 cats here now. My 4, Pam's Gouda, is here in the little room that's not heated in the same way the house is heated. So there's all these space heaters and stuff in there because it's getting down to the 20s here. But it's only, I can run as many space heaters as I need. It's only, Pam can pick them up on Monday. A few months back, I had, 5? I had 8 cats. My neighbor down the way was gone for 10 days. I had his cat. Oh, that was an outdoor cat. It's really simple to just change the water and change the kibble, and the thing roams around outside in a little garage-like barn thing. And my neighbor next door was away for a week, and 2 cats there. So I had 8. And sometimes I say, how the heck did I get in the middle of this? I never had animals. I never understood pet relationships. Now I completely do. Don't want 4, but this is my commitment now, and I will make sure, I serve them. It is a master-servant relationship of which I am the servant, I assure you, mostly to Bootsy. Thanks for listening.